I would assume that if you were deciding between the Z Fold 6 or the OnePlus Open or maybe the Pixel Fold, that multitasking is probably a pretty big deal to you. It's probably a thing that you're looking to do with one of these phones, right? The fact that you have a normal phone or a normal-ish phone that opens up into a much larger screen tells me that you're going to want to do something with that larger screen, and that thing is often potentially going to be multitasking. In this video, we're going to take a look at primarily the OnePlus Open and the Z Fold 6. We're going to compare open canvas to what Samsung has here with the Z Fold 6. Compare, contrast, give you some notes here and there about which ones I prefer, which one's better. And that's kind of the point, guys. We're going to try to decide which of these phones has the most feature-rich, best experience when it comes to multitasking. Alright, so what we're going to do is just start off by opening the same application on both devices, and we're going to slowly ramp things up, and as we go along, we're going to compare and contrast how these two things work. So obviously, one app and one app, that's going to be exactly the same situation. If we want to launch a second application, though, there are several ways that this can be done. So obviously, we have a taskbar on both of these. You can drag an app directly up off the taskbar. They both do have access to an app drawer as well. I do like that we have our letters over here. It's smaller on the OnePlus Open, but again, very, very similar. We'll just grab, just to make things nice and simple, we'll grab the Play Store. So we'll click on P over there and we will scroll over on this one. And if we grab the Play Store, we can drag it here to the side or up above for a top-bottom split. On the OnePlus Open, you can have it here on the side. The top-bottom split cannot be accessed directly from this point, at least not to my knowledge. We're going to let go of both of them, and there you go. You have apps on the exact same situation, I should say, on both of these phones. If you tap in the middle, very similar things as well. We can now access that top-bottom split. You can see that this is actually expanded. We're going to talk about that a little bit more here in just a moment. But you can also save as an app pair, or of course swap sides. We're going to do the left-right switch. You can see what the top-bottom layout looks like here. Very nice smooth animations for the Galaxy Z Fold. If we do this over here, top bottom split, not too bad at all, but it's definitely not quite as smooth. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they're very, very similar. They just look a little bit different. I've got my animation speed pumped up on the Z Fold, so that might be somewhat responsible for why it might look a little bit smoother to me. So you did see when I had these in a top-bottom split that the Play Store is now taking up essentially the entire screen. If I tap up there, I have access to YouTube Music. What is happening here? Well, on the OnePlus Open device, you have something called Open Canvas. And this allows you to click on the little handle on any of these applications and expand it. So now you have a basically full screen app, and you can quickly tap to come back over to your other application. In fact, I can go ahead and expand both of these. And as you can see, I can just rapidly jump back and forth between these two applications. You can imagine how potentially that could be very, very useful. Some apps just don't work super well in this sort of scrunched down view. Maybe you need more room on that particular app, but you still do need to jump back and forth to that other application. So rather than using the little side or the little gesture navigation bar down here, doing the side swipe to go back and forth, you can just simply do that, and that might be faster for you. I really do like that feature, but we now need to talk about having a third application up and running. We'll just grab YouTube. On the Z Fold, you can see that I can actually have the app here, I guess up there at the top. Yeah, I can have it in any of these four corners, or you can also just replace that side app, but we're talking about a third app, so any of these four corners will work. So now three applications all on screen at once. Now my biggest problem with this is that to me, these two applications are going to be borderline useless. For the OnePlus Open, that's going to be a little bit different. If I go to YouTube and I drag this on, you can see release to replace the app, but you can also drag down here to add to split view. Now what this is going to do is the open canvas thing. It's over here to the side, so we can jump back and forth and see all these applications. The only way to have them all on the screen at once is to do a 4-finger pinch and zoom out, and now they're all sort of here at once. You may think I'm crazy, but I would rather do this then do this, because they're smaller, but the aspect ratio is such that I can actually see each of them, and they, to me, seem more usable than having these teeny tiny squares. And of course, you can zoom back in and jump back and forth just like that. And of course, with the OnePlus Open, you can expand, and now you have 2 up here and 1 down here. You can go ahead and expand this one, so you're jumping around like this, and you can expand the other one as well, so you're flying between 3 essentially full screen applications. This is one of those places where your preference is going to be extremely important, right? You may really not like Open Canvas. You might not like the way that they're going about split screening at all. You may want all 3 apps on the same screen at the same time with no black bars on the top and bottom, and that's totally fair. That would be your preference. For me, I find the way that Samsung does this, of squeezing all 3 apps onto the screen at once, causing 2 of them to be tiny little squares, to be sort of a waste of time. Yes, there are 3 apps there, 3 apps available to me, but if 2 of them are essentially useless, I don't really think that counts. You basically have 1 usable app and 2 apps that I am just simply never going to enjoy using in the way that they're being shown to me. Because of that, I really, really, really like Open Canvas. And as we go through the rest of this video, what you will find is that when it comes to polish, when it comes to the full feature set, when it comes to just working universally, Samsung does do pretty much everything as well or better than OnePlus. It's all going to come back to Open Canvas, though. How much are you willing to give up for Open Canvas if Open Canvas does indeed speak to you in the way that it speaks to me? Now, before we close these applications, I'm going to show you something else. I do want you to see what the recent apps view is. On the OnePlus Open, swipe up and hold, you get this grid view. On the Z Fold, you get applications just sort of side by side. Let me go ahead and open a couple of other applications here just so that you can see. We'll do Threads. That way you can see they're all just sort of side by side. Now, you can use Good Lock and get a grid view like this, but it is something that you're going to have to do in addition to just the stock operating system. Let's go ahead and open up the Play Store one more time. And what I want to show you is gestures, because you can, like I said, use the taskbar to drag apps up, but you have some other options. On the Z Fold, you can do a 2-finger swipe in from the side, and you get this little app drawer that will allow you to grab another application and then launch it. And what's cool about this is that you can do it from the top. If I do this correctly, come on now, I swear this should work. Maybe it doesn't work from the top. I don't know. I thought it worked from the top or the bottom. So the bottom worked just fine. And then from the other side. So of course, wherever you do this, that is where that other application is going to launch. With the OnePlus Open, a 2-finger swipe from the top splits the app in 2, and you now just have your home screen, right? Just like you would normally use. And if you simply launch another application, it's going to open it up. It's remembering that this application was expanded, so it's giving it to me expanded on both cases. I don't know if I liked it or not. I think I'd probably prefer it if it started here and then I needed to expand it each time if that was something that I was going to do, but that's just my personal preference. This is another one of those subjective places where, for me, OnePlus is just doing it in a way that makes more sense to me. This may seem counterintuitive, but I have a much easier time finding the app I'm looking for when I'm going to initiate split screening, when I'm looking at my home screen, versus going through an alphabetical list of applications. It's practically muscle memory. You can test yourselves on this. Grab your phone, close your eyes, and try to launch YouTube or whatever it might be off of your home screen. You probably can do it. I just did. It's because we do it all the time. We're so used to where things are. Again, it's muscle memory. So the fact that my 2-finger swipe doesn't show me an alphabetical list, it shows me my home screen, which is perfectly crafted to have the apps I expect, where I expect them to be. I got to give OnePlus an edge on that one. We also need to talk about floating windows. So let's grab YouTube, and if I drag it up and put it in the middle, drop here for pop-up view. What that means is we now have this little floating window that can be resized, and you can have this thing just hanging out on top. Now, with the OnePlus Open, you would think that you would be able to just come down here and grab YouTube and drag it up and release it somewhere to be a floating window, but I don't believe there's any way to actually do that from that view. you would need to use the little sidebar that you can enable in the settings. I believe it's enabled by default. Okay, quick edit there. I thought I was going crazy because I was trying to launch YouTube with the smart sidebar, and I thought that should be launching in a floating window. For some reason, that's just not working, but I went and I grabbed another application, which was just Amazon, and that did launch in a floating window. So there's something about YouTube that it does not seem to like for the floating window. So you can do this with apparently most applications, but you're going to need to keep the little smart sidebar enabled in order to access this additional feature. Let's go ahead and close both of these, and we will full screen YouTube Music on both. On the Z Fold, you can also swipe down from the corner and get a floating window there as well. If I'm not mistaken, that gesture as well as the two-finger gesture is something that you're going to need to enable in your settings. Under Labs, multi-window, swipe for split screen, swipe for pop-up view. So make sure both of those are enabled to have access to that particular feature. Let's see if I can do this in a kind of roundabout way on the OnePlus Open. Let's open up the Play Store. If I swipe up and hold, you can see here release, and that will bring us into a pop-up view. Now let's do YouTube, and let's do our two-finger swipe down, and let's just do Threads, and we'll go to my profile page here. Let's come over to YouTube and shrink it down. So now we do have the two split screen apps and my floating window on top, which can be resized. I also like that on OnePlus, they have this little mini view. If I go home, you can see this a bit more clearly maybe. You can expand it out, standard, and it kind of gives you these names. Do whatever you want with it. Bear in mind, it maintains the aspect ratio, right? That is a difference as well. But once you hit mini, it's going to throw it over to one corner to kind of get it out of your way. So there are definitely some really big differences in the way that these two different phones handle floating windows. Samsung obviously is just more flexible and more universal, and that is really, really important. If we do the swipe up and hold on both of these, it is worth pointing some of these things out. So open in split screen, open in pop-up over here. Floating window, split screen, both of these things are there as well. So floating window, pop-up view. But again, like I said, this can be changed to be any aspect ratio. I just closed it, but you saw what I meant there for a moment. Any aspect ratio that you want. So like I said, more flexibility from Samsung, more universality from Samsung. And for a lot of people, that's going to be the overarching idea between these two. Yes, OnePlus is doing some novel and almost experimental things, but they fall short at some of the basics. Why can some apps not be launched in a floating window? That's just strange. Why do you need to use the smart sidebar to initiate a floating window in those applications when you already have two apps open? Why can't you go off the taskbar and put it towards the top in the middle, or just in the middle like you do on Samsung? There's just a lot of weird little things like that that will degrade your experience with the OnePlus device. Yes, they have those advantages for me, like the two-finger swipe revealing the home screen, like Open Canvas, but Samsung does everything they set out to do really, really well. Now, you could also argue that that's because not a whole lot's really changed with their system over the last several years, and because of that, it's really refined and really polished, and that is absolutely true. Maybe they could stand to branch out, do a little bit more, but man, oh man, what they do try to do, they absolutely nail. And in the interest of just being thorough, we'll talk about split screening on the cover display as well. The simplest way to do it is exactly how I just showed you. So you can do split screen view here on both of these. As you can see here, we get our little select an app. It's that little mini app drawer. I do want to point out that they have this really cool thing now where it shows the recent apps, little screenshots of them right there as well. That's a really nice touch. And there is your second app. Over here, the app has slid up and we just have our home screen once again, and there you go. You have both applications there. You can swap sides. You can do your app pairs. Functionality from there is very, very similar. Let's go ahead and close that down. But again, I will point out that pop-up view is not available on every app. I don't know what Samsung has done to make it work on every app, but it's just not available on every app. We can do floating window with the Play Store, but not with YouTube. Same functionality as what we saw on the inner screen, just on the outer screen. Of course, for the Z Fold 6, you also do have a really great option in DeX if you do have an external monitor. preferably a mouse and keyboard so that you're not using your phone as the trackpad. It's not necessarily the best way to use it, but it is absolutely usable, and it does enable some very solid workflows that I think would fall under this multitasking banner. And the Pixel Fold, the OnePlus Open, they simply do not have anything that really competes with this. One thing I will say is that despite the fact that I really love it, when we're talking about which folding phone has the best suite of multitasking tools, the answer is not going to be the Pixel Fold. We will quickly run through its capabilities here because they are fairly brief. I can get through them really quickly. So you can swipe up and hold, and you can split screen, but it's going to ask you what you want to split screen from the list of applications that you have recently had open, and so that's going to limit you quite a bit. It's Radar Omega. It's a little bit of a slow application, but there you go. That's pretty much all you have from the cover display. We'll just grab the weather again. You do have your taskbar, and by virtue of that, you can grab any of these applications and you can put one here or put one there. That is pretty much it. The good news is you can split screen with any application. The bad news is that is all you can do. As of filming, touching the middle does nothing. Double tapping it switches. But tapping it once does nothing. There are no app pairs when you come up here. You can't save these two or do anything else with it. This is it, guys. I like the aspect ratio. I think that it's, when you're talking about two apps side by side, I think this one does it the best just because of the size and shape. But that is it. That is all you can do. I don't have anything else to say about the Pixel Fold. So guys, there you go. I think it's deceptively difficult right now to determine who is doing multitasking best on these foldables between these two top tier options that are directly purchasable in the United States. I think we can rule, unfortunately, we can rule Google out of this conversation. Hopefully with the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, we do see some things like app pairs. I'm not hearing a whole lot about floating windows, which is disappointing. They definitely need to step their game up right now. I think it's definitely down to these two. And it's going to come down to those subjective preferential questions. Do you like open canvas? Do you like seeing your home screen with the two-finger swipe down? Or do you like the tried and true and polished and universal system that Samsung has put together for their device? Personally, I lean towards open canvas and OnePlus just a little bit, but I'm not going to fault anybody for going for the Z Fold 6. I do want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What is the determining factor for you, and which way do you lean? Guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content just like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.